Hi, guess what? I've got a new webcam. So I'm very excited about making this video because you can finally see me properly and the sound quality is a lot better. You can see the colours on my walls. I've painted my walls. And so, what's the subject for today? Well, of course, what other than enlightenment or non-duality? Now, what do we mean by non-duality? Well, first, let's give a description of enlightenment. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment's a word that's thrown about a lot these days in spiritual circles. People talk about becoming enlightened, getting enlightened, searching for enlightenment, the great search for being, for nirvana, self-realization, God, Tao, Spirit, Moksha, Satori, you name it. We've got tons of words to describe the ultimate state of consciousness. And that's what we're after, the ultimate state of consciousness. So what is that? What is the ultimate state of consciousness? Well, that's a very difficult thing to describe in words. And the term non-duality means, I'm using words again, of course, but we'll get to that dilemma in a minute. Non-duality means oneness or not two-ness. Oneness, not two-ness. So reality, consciousness is one thing. It's not two. There is no separation between myself and other. There's no separation between me and you. No division between subject and object, or mind and matter. Now, to define non-duality, we also have to know what duality is. And what is duality? Well, duality is simply the realm of opposites, the realm of two-ness, or polarization. That's one word to describe it. So I'm going to give you some examples of opposites: good and evil, rich and poor, fat and thin, light and dark, good and bad. Did I say good and evil? Positive and negative, and so on and so forth. So in the world of duality, we see things in terms of their opposites. In fact, in duality, the everyday world, things exist only because of their opposites. So good could not exist without evil. Rich could not exist without poor. Fat could not exist without thin, because you need its opposite to compare, to give it reality, to validate something. You need to have something from which to measure it against, you see? So there's nothing wrong with duality. This is the everyday world of opposites, where we have ego consciousness, or a sense of I, or a separate self, which is perceiving the world out there. You know, I'm looking at you right now, you're looking at me, and you're listening to me, I'm talking to you. So there's a relationship between you and I. And Without duality, there could be no relationship. So duality is the realm of relationship. And on a higher level, the relationship between myself and the higher self is also duality. The relationship between yourself and God, Spirit, is also a relationship, right? On the mundane level, of course, relationships exist between people everywhere. You have your girlfriends and boyfriends, husbands and wives, partners, mistresses, children, bosses, and so on, tyrants, people you love and hate, dislike, and so on. And so all this exists in the realm of duality. One could call it the tonal, the realm of ordinary perception, everyday reality, a world in which all of us are familiar with, because that's a world in which we have to survive. So sometimes in spiritual circles, people have a problem with the everyday world. They want to bow out of it. They want to withdraw from society, from the world, not realizing that they are part of that world. And that world is them also. From the non-dual perspective, from the A perspective, let's say, of non-duality, you and I are not separate. You and I are the world. You and I are one and the same. See? So enlightenment then is getting to know oneself as the universe itself. Because the universe, all that is, in the phenomenal plane, is one thing, one phenomena, one consciousness, one being. And what we call the self, with a capital S, in Hindu or Advaita Vedanta, which is an early form, the earliest form of non-duality expressed in the Hindu Vedas, which was written around 700 BC. And that is non-duality. And that teaches that there is only one self. Yourself and I and myself are the same self. The self with a capital S, not the small self, the ego. There are many egos, billions of us, operating in the world, fighting for survival, competing against one another, fighting tooth and nail for profit, power, position, and prestige, killing one another, and having fun doing it, you know. So the ego is, let's say, in its mode of survival, up to all kinds of trouble and mischief, and creates all manner of suffering for itself. In fact, the ego is the very definition and vehicle of suffering. And so when we talk about enlightenment, we're talking about transcendence of the ego transcendence. And so how do we transcend the ego? It's not so easy, huh? You can't just say, I'm going to drop my ego and that's it, I'll be enlightened. No, it's not that simple. And many people spend years or decades trying to do just that, and well, they don't get very far, because the ego is not something you can just simply toss aside, because it has its function, it has its purpose, it has validity in the world. But we needn't exclusively identify with it as as ourselves. We needn't say that we are the ego, because that's not who we really are. It's just a function. It's just a vehicle in which we survive and function in the world. So enlightenment is about freeing oneself from the shackles of ego consciousness, liberating oneself from suffering, because we're all very well versed at suffering. We're all very good at suffering. Like I said, the ego is defined by suffering. It's defined by limitation. I'm not just talking about physical suffering, because with ego identification is also identification with the body, with the mind. And as many of us know, meditation is the primary method which people use to silence the mind, transcend the ego, and get into a transcendent state. The meditation, the mindfulness of breathing in this case, was the method in which the Buddha, Gautama, Siddhartha, the Buddha, attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree 2,500 years ago, or thereabouts. So meditation is the vehicle in which ego transcendence takes place. And meditation, apart from all its multitude of benefits, has the effect of silencing the mind. And when the mind is silent, the true self begins to emerge. Yeah? When the mind is silent, when thoughts are out of the way, we enter into a state of non-duality. Now, it might not be very powerful at first. We might only get glimpses of it. Now, some of you have taken psychedelics or drugs and sought the fast track to enlightenment, and no doubt these substances are very powerful, but the major drawback is they don't last, and I can certainly testify to that. Any experience, however profound or mystical or spiritual or transcendent, has a beginning and an end, and therefore cannot be called enlightenment, because enlightenment has no beginning and end. It's endless, boundless, infinite, formless. There are simply no words to do it justice. Paradoxically, here I am talking about it. That's a dilemma. Words belong, properly speaking, in the realm of duality, whereas the experience of enlightenment belongs in the realm of non-duality. It's not really a question of, am I enlightened? Or is this person enlightened? Or is that master enlightened? Because there is no person that becomes enlightened. Rather, the person must get out of the way before the natural state of enlightenment can dawn. And when that happens, one realizes that enlightenment is always already the case. It's your ever-present condition. And before thought arises, before perception arises even, because you're not your thoughts, you're not your mind. You're not your body. You are the one observing these things. You can see your body, therefore something is seeing the body, so that can't be you, right? The body can't be you because who or what is observing the body? The mind can't be you because who or what is observing the mind, right? So who or what is looking through your eyes right now? Who or what is that being? Have you ever looked into this? Because this is very interesting. Because we just, by default, as if somebody programmed us, like a computer, assume that we are the ego and that's it, that we're this body mind, that we're going to suffer, grow old, maybe have a few experiences here and there, and then we die and that's it. It's no surprise then that we feel so limited, so disempowered, so useless, because we identify with this small self, this puny little body mind. And we do this every moment, every day. We wake up and as soon as the thoughts start kicking in, we recreate the same day as we had yesterday. We do this by routines. Our routines keep us safe in the knowledge that we are the ego, in fact, and our thoughts keep us chained in the mental prison of thought consciousness. Now, the great sage Lao Tzu said, "Stop thinking and end your problems." Now, he didn't mean that we should go around clueless, not thinking about anything and, not using thought as a tool, just being stupid and impulsive and not that. He meant rather that we should cease to identify with the ceaseless stream of thoughts, the internal dialogue. Because when the internal dialogue stops, we gain access to non-duality. And then there's no goal, special, superior, important, right? It wants to feel that it's lording over others. Now it's taken on the form of spirituality. Now I'm a meditator, I'm a cultivator, I'm a warrior or whatever. I'm a light worker. Therefore, I see more than other people. So the ego then hijacks the whole process and then turns it into some kind of competition to outdo other people. So you've got to watch for that spiritual egotism or spiritual materialism. So don't make enlightenment into a goal. It's not something that anyone can attain as such. Like one can, buy a car or a house or get a job or career, promotion or something like that. It's your natural state. It is your original self, who you truly are, before even ego consciousness comes into the equation. You see? And it's all expansive, all pervading. Now, not everybody's interested in enlightenment, but everybody's interested in being happy. But true happiness can only mean anything if it's if it's there all the time, right? I mean, if it isn't there all the time and it's just some fleeting thing, then, of what real worth is it? You see? Rather, you want to be happy all the time, or rather, you want to at least experience some sort of contentment and peace and serenity amidst a world of chaos, right? So you want to experience peace, bliss, ecstasy, joy, love, compassion, kindness, abundance, Now I realize that I'm just throwing words about here, but what I'm pointing to is that happiness, enlightenment, joy, bliss, radiance, fulfillment, fullness, they're all one and the same, right? Things only become distinctive in the realm of ego consciousness, if it could be called consciousness at all. So when we get into the state of non-duality, which is always already the case, remember, your true nature, prior to thought, happening right now in this present moment, always available, always accessible, then there you are, you see, there's nothing to attain, there's nowhere to go. And that's when you stop chasing anything. You stop chasing pleasure, you stop chasing people, you stop chasing enlightenment even, because you're already there. You've already achieved it. Therefore, there's nothing to achieve. I mean, why would you want to feel good if you weren't already feeling bad? You see? Why would you want enlightenment if you weren't already unenlightened? Why would you want to be successful if you didn't already feel a failure? One who is already established in the ever-present condition has no need for success, because all that's required is for one to be fully present, and therefore life just flows effortlessly. It's a joy. You see? We're no longer caught up in the realm of having to attain something in order to feel happy, because we're already there. So essentially, non-duality is about realizing one's essential nature, one's innate happiness, joy, truth, innocence. There are so many qualities to it, and yet it has no qualities, paradoxically. But it is so beautiful, so profound. It is simply unacknowledged, unrecognized. How do I know that? Well, look all around you. I don't think people are acting. I don't think people are play acting at being so miserable. And that's not a judgment, that's an observation. Look at people's faces wherever you go. Look at how stressed they are. Look at how unhappy they are. Look at how limited their experience. Listen to what they talk about. Do they sound happy or enlightened to you? Is it any wonder they're searching for these things? Now, the search is a great start, but you have to realize that ultimately the search for anything is futile when you already have what it is you're looking for. It's just a question of getting the mind out of the way. Now, the mind's not the enemy. The ego is not your enemy. When you fight something, you'll notice it just puts up more resistance, doesn't it? What you resist persists, I think is the saying. You know? So surrender then to the present moment. Let the intelligence of the totality, consciousness, guide you to the next right action. Allow each action to flow into the next effortlessly, seamlessly, and enjoy the ride. Life is a wonderful gift. The world is a beautiful place when seen through the eyes of spirit. Thanks for listening. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being part of my journey, and we'll see you next time. Ooh.